Are we going? Are we going? Oh, I want to make sure. Well, I think we're going. It says we're going. All right. Good morning. It is I, your host, Pogo Kiddo, with yet another episode of Redstone, Lapis, Lazuli. It is I, your host, Pogo Kiddo. Yes, hello, welcome, good morning. All right, here to start going here. Get to the game. There we go. Hey, I'm down here right now because it was quieter down here, and if I go up there, it's super loud because of the rain. It was raining. It's still raining. So let me get this music going here. All right. So we got something other than me going. Destiny. So yes, hello, welcome back to yet another amazing episode. Amazing, right? Amazing for who? I've been doing this show for like a long time, and I don't know if anything's gonna come of it, but it's helped me keep my head straight about what's been going on a whole bunch of stuff. First of all, let me show you about like the work in progress here. This is the automatic sheep farm. None of the sheep are dyed, so they're not going to be colored, right? And I don't have a collection system, so none of their wool gets picked up. They're just getting their wool cut, and then that's it. I'm working on the collection system here. I'm gonna have a minecart go around and pick up everything, and then deposit it into a water elevator, probably on this side to stay away from that. Deposit into a water elevator where it's gonna go up onto the second floor of this, where I'm gonna have like, maybe I don't even have a second floor. Maybe I'll just put a roof over this guy. Put a quick roof, and then make another building over here to house all the wool. Either or. I've also added, I added a storage system to the iron farm, so that it's not just in one box. And it's, chugging along. The item sorters for Java are different than the item sorters for Bedrock. I had to use the old school Impulse SV design, and it might have problems if you overload it, but it's not going to get overloaded like this. It's just relaxing. Take those out or not take them out, I guess. Okay. You can see I moved the horses and the sheep out of the way. The horses are over here so I can use them more readily, and the sheep are over there. I've added a second layer to this, a second level to the wool farm, or to the farm, and I made it the second level sugarcane, whereas the first level is bamboo. But bamboo goes really fast, so I don't know if I should. I'm gonna need to make like 2 or 3 more layers on top of this for all the bamboo and stuff, because I'm gonna turn the bamboo into planks. I use planks all the time, planks and sticks. So if I can get them from bamboo, I don't have to chop down trees anymore, and that would be nice. So like in real life, it's snowing, or it's like on the verge of snowing. It's kind of weird that it would be like this rain or this snowy so often. Like from what I understand, it's supposed to rain, not snow. So it's kind of weird. Climate change is real, I'm telling you. Climate change is real. Oh, come on, rain, stop. Alright, it stopped. Finally. I like how the ground looks all wet still. And it dries out. So yeah, on Monday evening, I found out one of my friends had passed away. And I was feuding with him. So like, it took me a long time to find out. And it like wrecked me. Because I was feuding with him. And I never resolved the feud before he died. So I feel like a dumbass. I just got wrapped up with stuff. I got wrapped up with stuff. And he died. Before I could like get back to him. So I feel bad about that. Like, yeah, sure, cut people off who deserve it. but I like it's a complicated situation because it happened in 2019. In 2020, I would get punched by Proud Boys, attempted robbery, pepper sprayed by Proud Boys, and then like falsely accused by the police. So like, yeah, I would be like face to face with it, like a lot. Oh shit! Oh what the hell? How did you guys get in here? How did you even get in here, guys? For real, they just like spawned in here. Wow, that's weird. That's weird. They shouldn't have been able to spawn in here. I mean, there's like light levels in there, guy. Light levels are high everywhere. There's no place for you to spawn. That's weird. I have to like spawn proof my house then. I didn't know that. Yeah, they just spawned inside my house. Like, how crazy is that? But yeah, basically that's what happened. Proud Boys spawned inside my house. And like I went nuts. That's a pretty good way of putting it. Like, yeah, so I had no appetite for people telling me that what I was experiencing in my real life was not real and not valid. Because what would end up happening is they would literally try to overthrow the government. Like 2 years later. And they're literally still trying to do it now. Like, nothing's really changed. Donald Trump has still not been indicted yet. Sure, we got some Proud Boys on trial, and we got some Oath Keepers in prison. But, like, the leaders are still free. The leaders are free and plotting their next attempted coup. Their next coup attempt. That's what they're doing. So I'm in a bad situation. Like, it's just a bad situation. The dude was associating with Nazis. Well, not overt Nazis. He wasn't overtly Nazi. And I was like, dude, you can't be doing that. The guy's a Nazi. And he defended him. So yeah, I was pretty like on fire at that point. I mean, look at here. I'm still doing this show. In fact, why don't we get to it? Craig Smyers was above all, he loved education. He loved teaching. He loved teaching, educating. So let's talk a little bit about what's been going on in the world. So like, what do I have, right? Why do my words matter anything at all to anything? All right, let me tell you. My name is Robert Gonzalez. Sure, you can call me Pogo Kiddo on the internet. That's I've been using that name for like a long time on the internet. I have a master's degree in sociology. I studied in Spain and France, and I lived in Japan for 3 years teaching English. So I have some world experiences. I worked on DPW at Burning Man, I think in 2002 or 3. So that was an eye-opening experience. Oh, I worked in the Nevada State Legislature. So I worked for DPW for Black Rock City at Burning Man, and I worked in the Nevada State Legislature as a committee secretary. Like, I hung out with punk rockers in basement shows in Reno, or in Carson City. I don't know if I went to any basement shows in Reno, but in Carson City, yeah. And I went to like, dude, I've been to like capital cities like Paris and Stockholm and like, so I've been paying attention for a long time about the way things have been going, because like if you study sociology, one of the lenses of sociology is the conflict school, whereby they hold that people in the conflict school hold that all human history is based on conflict between groups. All of it's conflict. It's all conflict. None of this harmony stuff. The other way of thinking about it is the functionalist perspective, where they say, no, it's not conflict, it's functional. Every part has a function, serves a function. And it's only a problem when things get out of whack and it becomes dysfunctional. So it's two different ways of thinking about it. But I tended to like the conflict theory perspective. And I noticed that, yeah, in this world, we have two groups, the people who have a lot of money, and the vast majority of us who do not have a lot of money. And you can, and here in the United States, it gets particularly funny because it gets mixed in with race. Like, the United States was built on slave labor, and that hasn't gone away. None of that's been resolved. We had a civil war, but instead of the civil war resolving the issues, they just got buried. So yeah, I have an interest in furthering the American project of multiracial democracy, freedom and liberty or justice and liberty for all. I'm on board with that. And I recognize that there are groups in the United States who are opposed to me. Historically, they've been working for the exact opposite. They want a world of white supremacy. And no labor protections. I mean, they're already putting kids to work in Iowa. Like, they're already doing it. In Florida, Ron DeSantis has pretty much taken over the university system and destroyed its curriculum, banning books and banning what topics the professors can talk about. So the Nazis are here already and doing their thing. So I think it's important for me to be a voice in opposition to those Nazis and to further the awareness of the American project for multiracial democracy, to keep all of us on the same page. It's easy to get distracted on stuff, but if we're all on the same page, then it all makes things more clear. For example, why is it that conservatives are so opposed against the literal existence of transgendered people. Why is it? Why do they do that? Did you ever think why? Why? Like, it has nothing to do with them. Why would they even care about transgendered people? Well, number one, transgendered people are a minority, and they don't have a lot of protections in society. So if you're a group that wants to find a scapegoat, transgendered community is a good scapegoat if you want to just like mess with people. So that's what they're doing, right? So because conservatives have this idea that only they have the truth, only they know the right way for everyone. And so if you don't conform to their idea of the right way for you, they will use violence, either directly, passively, or through the power of the state, if they control the state. And in a lot of instances, they do control the state. Look at the police. The police as an institution is a white supremacist institution. It's there to preserve white supremacy. That's its primary function. And number two, preserve property rights of property owners, which is funny because there's not a whole lot of property owners. There's a lot of people, but not a lot of property owners. Sure, you got your little tiny house, but they're not there to protect your house. When they say property owners, they mean the big building downtown. They mean the store with all the electronics in it or whatever. Or all the food in it. That's the property they're talking about. They mean the machine, the factory where the machine is. That's the machines are to make the stuff. That's the property they're talking about. Not your car, not your house, not your bed. So yeah, there's this struggle, and it's a historic struggle. It's been going on since well, I mean, you could say since all of history, if you want to go like all that way back. I mean, you could pick it up at any point and start from there. But I like to start with the birth of the United States, because that's one thing that can that can relate to everyone who lives in the United States. Before I get too far up out of the gate, let me show you the sweatshirt I'm wearing. Isn't this cool? This is made by Jesse. Oh man, dude, what's his last name? Let me pull it up real quick. Jesse Lee Bauman. Talk to mushrooms, not cops. And it's original design. So yeah, Jesse Lee Bauman. He's an artist in Salem, Oregon. So yeah, what else is going on? I was talking about stuff. Oh yeah, the whole saga, right? We're trying to get multiracial democracy going here. And there are forces who are opposed to multiracial democracy. They want slavery. And so yeah, sure. We're going. Time goes along. And then there's this guy named Donald Trump who lost all his money in the 80s or 90s on a failed casino called the Taj Mahal. He lost all his money. At one point he had way more debt than he had assets. And all of a sudden, somehow, he manages to bounce back. And you go, how did Donald Trump manage to bounce back after losing all his money on the failed Taj Mahal? How did that happen? How did that happen? Well, if you listen to Eric Trump, well, according to some guy, Eric Trump said they got all their money from Russia. They get loans from Russia. All the banks that they use are Russian banks to get loans to go do their stuff. Because that's the only banks who would loan to Donald Trump. And you're thinking, well, why would Russian banks loan to Donald Trump? What's the deal with Russian banks? Well, it turns out there's a lot of connections that come with those Russian banks. A lot of connections to mafia, to Russian mafia. So Donald Trump, his new gig was to buy like rental, like condo buildings with Russian mafia money, which is blood money. And then once he owned the property, he licensed his name to it, really, that's all he did. He would sell condos to shell companies. Russian mafia dudes who want to like launder their money create Shell Company A. Shell Company A purchases a condo from Donald Trump for $1 million. Way above market rate. Way above market rate. And then and then a few months later, Shell Company B, who's owned by the same guy, but it's a shell company, so you can't see that it's owned by the same guy. Shell Company B comes along and purchases the condo from Shell Company A. That means all the money that Shell Company B gave to Shell Company A has been laundered. It's clean. It's clean money. It was used in the purchase of property. It's all been laundered. And then Shell Company B sells the property back to Donald Trump for like a reduced price. So Donald Trump gets his cut. And then they just repeat that over and over and over again. that was Donald Trump's deal then. So Donald Trump wanted to build Trump Tower in Moscow, build it in Moscow, but he had to ingratiate himself to the Russian power structure to do it. So he held Trump Tower, he held Miss Universe 2013 in Moscow, where he and the Russians like plotted this idea for him to like become president and take over and do a bunch of things for Putin. Let's see. 2016. All right. So 2016 happens, right? All right. Right before 2016 happens, Barack Obama is still president, or before the election, Barack Obama is still president, and maybe this is like way before. This is like really, really early on. During Barack Obama's presidency, he had an advisor named Michael Flynn, but Obama fired Michael Flynn. Straight up fired him. Why? Because Michael Flynn was a spy. He was working for Turkey and Russia. Here, let me show you. So, here's a picture of Michael Flynn. He's right there, Mike Flynn. He's a retired lieutenant general of the U.S. Army, and he's here sitting literally on the right-hand side of Vladimir Putin at a dinner party, and he's there with Putin's spokesperson, Putin's chief of staff, Putin's deputy chief of staff, former prime minister of Czech Republic, a film director, Emir's wife. I don't know who Emir is. Some German dude, and Jill Stein. So Mike Flynn is dirty. Mike Flynn is dirty, is what I'm saying. And Obama fired his ass because they found out he was dirty. Well, right after Obama fired him, Donald Trump picked up Michael Flynn and put him in his cabinet and said, I want you to become the national security director of all America's secrets and military. You're going to be the guy at the top guy of everything. Michael Flynn. And then Donald Trump won the election, right? Okay, so the deputy attorney general was named Sally Yates. Sally Yates. So now the president is going to be Donald Trump, and Donald Trump has this guy Mike Flynn in his party saying like, this is going to be my dude. So Sally Yates, deputy attorney general for the United States, goes up to the Trump campaign and says, hey guys, I think you should get rid of Mike Flynn. He's a spy. You should get rid of him. And then a week goes by and they don't do nothing. So she goes up to him and goes, hey guys, I think you should get rid of Mike Flynn. He's a spy. A week goes by, nothing. So the Trump campaign has been told 2 times that Mike Flynn's a spy, and they don't care. They don't care. So the 3rd time, Sally Yates goes, hey guys, this guy's a spy, and I'm telling you, and we're going to the press. So Sally Yates goes to the press and tells everyone, hey guys, the Trump team has got a spy on the presidential team named Mike Flynn. So everyone's like, ah, and they do a hearing on it, and Sally Yates goes in front of Congress and testifies. Yeah, well, no, right after Sally Yates goes before the press to tell everyone, right after she tells the press that the Trump campaign, the Trump team has a spy on their team, Donald Trump fires her. So she's fired. So she can't tell people anymore that Donald Trump has a spy on his team. So the U.S. Congress calls her in to testify. She's fired now. She's not anymore deputy attorney general. She's already been fired. And she comes in and she tells her story under oath. Yeah, dude, I told them 3 times that Michael Flynn is a spy. Obama already fired his ass for being a spy. And they hired him on purpose. They kept him on purpose. And then when I told them, they fired me. So Sally Yates is like really the one who like kind of blew it wide open to everyone else. There was that guy, Christopher Steele, but he's not really the source of stuff. He's not really the source. Anyways, the source is this guy, George Papadopoulos. George Papadopoulos, or I think his name was Papadopoulos. Papadopoulos, yeah. He's a Greek dude who was like Trump's coffee boy, but he basically was the go-between between the Trump campaign and Russia. Like if he wasn't a go-between, he was like a messenger for them. And he drunkenly blabbed to the Australian deputy person to the UK, some Australian diplomat. He drunkenly blabbed to the Australian diplomat that Russia had the Clinton emails. And when he said that, the Aussie guy told the FBI, and the FBI checked it out. That's when they started their investigation into Carter Page and George Papadopoulos. That's when the whole thing started for the FBI, which is weird because the whole thing started way sooner and the FBI didn't notice. That's weird. Anyways, so after Sally Yates is fired, James Comey opens this has this open investigation into Russia, right? Because of George Papadopoulos. So we don't know about this. Like, we don't really know what's happening about this. But what happened was Donald Trump called in the head of the FBI. His name was James Comey. James Comey was the head of the FBI. After Sally Yates told Donald Trump 3 times that the dude was a spy, Donald Trump fired Sally Yates. Then the FBI, led by this guy, he's the FBI director, James Comey, had this investigation going on into Russia. So one day, Donald Trump called James Comey into his office and said, hey Comey, you know about that whole Russia thing? Why don't you fucking let it go? Why don't you forget about it? Why don't you? Hey, Mr. Head of the FBI Director, I'm your fucking boss, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, and I'm telling you to fucking knock off your investigation of Russia. That's what I'm telling you. So James Comey is like, the fuck you doing, dude? You can't be doing that. Remember, the president and the Justice Department are supposed to be totally independent. They don't talk to each other because there's a fear that the president would influence the Justice Department to become a weapon for political persecution. But that's exactly what Donald Trump was doing. He was using his power as president to alter the way that the Justice Department was doing its business. So Donald Trump called in James Comey, and then James Comey like wrote notes, but he didn't stop the Russia investigation. So he calls him into the office again, James Comey, and says, "Hey dude, are you gonna quit this investigation or not?" And James Comey says, "No, dude, I'm not quitting the investigation." And then Donald Trump says, "Fine then, you're fucking fired." He just fired James Comey because he wouldn't stop the Russia investigation. So Donald Trump fired Sally Yates because Sally Yates said that Donald Trump had a spy in his midst, which was Michael Flynn. And then Donald Trump fired James Comey because he wouldn't stop the Russia investigation. So what happened the day after Donald Trump fired James Comey? Donald Trump invited in all the Russian diplomats into the Oval Office, and he kicked out all the American press. So these pictures that we have, these come from the Russians. There are no American photographers in that building in this time. Donald Trump literally kicked out all the Americans and only let the Russians in to the Oval Office. Look how at ease and happy Donald Trump is, because these are his friends. These Russian diplomats, these are his friends. None of the Americans are his friends. He's got to dominate them. But these guys, they're his friends. Look how jovial and how at ease he is with these guys.
Don't cry.
Oh, dude, are you serious? It's damaged? Oh, shit. Well, here, how about this one? Look at, it's all, these are all Russians. He invited all the Russians into the Oval Office and kicked out all the Americans the day after he fired James Comey. And he said, hey guys, don't worry about the Russia investigation. I fired James Comey. It's okay now. That's what he told these guys. And then he gave them a bunch of secrets. He told them secrets about Israel. Donald Trump is a bad guy. Look how at ease he is and how happy he is now that he got the Russians in, because this is his celebration, right? This is the moment when he's like, yay, we did it, we got the Russians into the White House, yay. He fired the head of the FBI, he fired the deputy attorney general. Anyone who questions what's going on, he fires them. So now he's doing his victory lap and having the Russians in the White House. So after that, after he fires James Comey, Rod Rosenstein is the deputy attorney general. They don't have it. He doesn't have an attorney general yet. So Rod Rosenstein is still a Trump guy. He's still Team Trump, but he can't not do anything. Like the FBI, the head of the FBI just got fired by the president. He has to do something. So what he did was he appointed a special counsel called Robert Mueller. But the thing is that he told Robert Mueller, you have to do this investigation with your hands tied. You cannot indict the president. You cannot do it. Number one. Number two, your standard of proof is way higher than what a prosecutor has. A prosecutor has to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. But Rod Rosenstein said, no, you need to establish, which is 100%, which is a higher standard than beyond reasonable doubt. Beyond reasonable doubt is like 80-90%. Establishing facts is 100%. So if someone lies to you, you can't establish the fact. You can't show anything happened because the standard was set too high. Yeah, dude, if you're there's beyond doubt, beyond a reasonable doubt that something went down, but because the guy lied, we can never really know, so we can't establish it. That's why the Mueller report was attacked so viciously when it came out, because it didn't establish that Donald Trump had colluded with Russia. It was there beyond reasonable doubt. It's way beyond reasonable doubt, but that wasn't the standard. The standard was established 100%. So that if you're missing any of the pieces, you can't prove it, you can't establish it. Then that's it. So, number two, they gave him a memo. They gave Robert Mueller a memo, and in this memo, they said you cannot indict a sitting president. The remedy for getting rid of a president who broke the law is impeachment, and that's only up to Congress. Only Congress can do that. So Robert Mueller just kind of went with it, which was dumb, stupid. I don't think the framers ever intended for the president of the United States to be above the law. That's dumb. But that's what they went with. So and then before the report could even come out, Billy Barr became Attorney General. Billy Barr was Attorney General during the Iran-Contra affair. His job is to be the cleaner for the Republicans. Like, if you know what happened in the Iran-Contra affair, basically, Ronald Reagan wanted his own private war against the Contras, or against the Sandinistas in Nicaragua. But he couldn't get Congress to approve the funds for it. So instead of that, he sold weapons to Iran to get the money to give to the Contra terrorists in Nicaragua to fuel his favorite side of the Civil War. And then when they found out about it, everyone like forgot and skated away with like no anything. And Billy Barr was instrumental in making that happen, because the report that was going to detail how everything happened, he buried it before it could come out. He wrote a 3-page summary that totally misled the contents of the report. The report didn't come out for like another 3 years after everyone was gone, and then everyone found out that he lied. But it was too late by then. Well, Billy Barr did the same fucking thing with the Robert Mueller report. Instead of releasing the report that showed that was already like hobbled, instead of releasing the report, he released a summary in which he said that Donald Trump was not guilty of anything, which was a total lie. That was totally not what the report said. But because Billy Barr his job is as a cleaner. His job is to clean up messes. That's all he wanted to do. He's not there to like actually serve justice. He's there to ensure that the Republicans can maintain power and further the white supremacy project. So yeah, fuck Bill Barr. So Bill Barr buried the Mueller report so that nothing could happen there. In the meantime, Donald Trump was implementing all of the plans that Russia wanted him to do. He started picking fights with members of NATO because he wants to break up NATO. NATO is the primary enemy of Russia. NATO is the thing that stops Russia from running over Europe. The reason why NATO exists is to stop Russian imperialism. That's why it exists. You know, when the Soviet Union broke up and Poland became free from Russia, one of the first things it did was apply for NATO membership, because it never, ever, ever wanted to be under Russian control ever again. So Donald Trump is in office and he's trying to do things for Russia. He's trying to break up the United States. He's trying to like cement his rule and get rid of democracy. He's trying to break up NATO. He's trying to isolate and weaken Ukraine. Because you know how Belarus got taken over by Russia just from corruption? Putin wanted to do the same thing to Ukraine. And in fact, it had done the same thing to Ukraine. So before Paul Manafort was the campaign manager of Donald Trump, he was the campaign manager of this other guy named Yanukovych. Let me pull up the thing, the map. Infrared view. Oh, this is not infrared view. This is the wrong one. Okay. So before any of this happened, 2010, 11, 12, 13, up to 14, the prime minister, the president of Ukraine was not Zelensky. It was this guy named Yanukovych. Yanukovych is a puppet of Vladimir Putin. Even though he's the president of Ukraine, he's tied with Vladimir Putin. Paul Manafort helped him win the presidency by lying about the other candidate, the pro-democracy candidate. He said that the pro-democracy candidate was a criminal, and he started a chant, said, lock her up, and that meant that the Russian puppet ended up winning the presidency. But the people of Ukraine wanted to go closer to the EU, to the West. But this guy, Viktor Yanukovych, wanted to pull Ukraine back into Russia, into Putin. So there was a battle between the people and the government of Ukraine. For 3 months, the people of Ukraine besieged the presidential palace, and eventually Viktor Yanukovych fled Ukraine. He fled Ukraine and went back to Russia. The owner of Burisma is this guy named Mykola Zlochevsky. He's the owner of Burisma, and he along with Viktor Yanukovych, they were using Burisma to embezzle money out of the Ukrainian government. Ukrainian government would give the company money, and the company would not do what they were supposed to do with the money. The leaders, this guy, would steal the money and just run away with it. So he was constantly stealing money from the Ukrainian taxpayers through corruption. Well, the UK wanted to do an investigation into this guy, but the UK couldn't do it because this prosecutor guy named Viktor Shokin kept blocking it. Viktor Shokin and Viktor Yanukovych are on Team Russia, so they're blocking the investigation of Burisma by the UK on behalf of this owner guy, Mykola Zlochevsky. But it's getting hot. The investigation is getting closer and closer. And then the revolution happened, and they kicked out this guy. This guy, Yanukovych, got kicked out. And now the investigation is getting closer and closer to this guy. Or not, to this guy. Now that their friend is gone, their power structure has been weakened. So the UK is getting closer and closer to investigating Zlochevsky. So what does Zlochevsky do? He's holding all this money. And he's like, all this embezzled, stolen money. And he's like, oh shit, what do I do? They're coming to get me. Hey, I see a stupid American. A stupid, naive American. Let me go get the stupid, naive American. Hey, Hunter Biden, you want to be on the board of this company? You want to come hang out? You don't have to do nothing. Just stay there. Just put your name there. Maybe do a few phone calls. That's it. We'll give you money. All right, cool. Thanks, man. And then what happened? He flees. This guy, the owner of Burisma, puts Hunter Biden on the board, and then he leaves the country. He flees the country. So both this guy, the Yanukovych, and Zlochevsky both flee the country, and Viktor Shokin is left there to defend Burisma against investigation. So eventually Zelensky gets into power. Joe Biden comes along and says, hey, the new president, oh shit. So the new president, right? The new president, after after they kick out this guy, Viktor Yanukovych, after they kick him out, the new president is this guy named Petro Poroshenko. Joe Biden, vice president, doesn't know what's happening here. He doesn't know, right? He doesn't know that the Russian mobsters left Hunter Biden holding the bag. He doesn't know that. He comes in and he doesn't know what's going on at all. All the Americans are like, what the fuck is happening here? Like, what's going on over there? We don't even know. We have no idea. So Joe Biden shows up to figure out what's going on. And he sees that this guy, Viktor Shokin, is blocking the investigation into Burisma. And he's like, hey, new guy, Petro Poroshenko, you're the new president of Ukraine. Why don't you kick him out to show us Americans that Ukraine really wants to be one of the good guys and join the West? And Poroshenko says, okay, I'll do that, no problem. They kick out Viktor Shokin. Viktor Shokin goes and hooks up with Rudy Giuliani. and Viktor Shokin and Rudy Giuliani and Donald Trump try to make up something about Hunter Biden and Burisma. It's crazy. But now Donald Trump is president, and so is Zelensky. So this is when So this is what we find out about the phone call, where 3 days after Giuliani's call, Zelensky was granted what turned out to be his infamous July 25th phone call with Trump. During that call, the president increased the pressure for Ukraine to do us a favor and to do whatever you can to look into Biden's son, and Biden bragging that he stopped the prosecution of Burisma, which he didn't, the company associated with Hunter Biden. Trump brought this up in direct response to requests from Zelensky for a meeting and to buy more javelins from the United States for defensive purposes. So at this point, Donald Trump is president and Zelensky is president. At first, it was Yanukovych, who was the Russian guy, but he got kicked out. Then Poroshenko, that he lost to Zelensky. And so, yeah, right after the Ukrainians kicked out Yanukovych, that's when Russia invaded Crimea and took Crimea and eastern Ukraine. So right after the Ukrainians kicked out the Russian puppet, Russia invaded. So Zelensky, now we're at Zelensky, and now now Trump is trying to pressure Zelensky into giving up, and he can't do it. And he's trying to flip the script. He's trying to paint. He's trying to make Hunter Biden hold the bag for the Russian, or for the Ukrainian oligarch embezzlement. Like, it's a pretty crazy timeline, right? All this is happening, and then eventually at the end of this 2021, Donald Trump loses his presidency, or loses the election, and then he tries to use violence to overthrow the government and overthrow democracy. And here we are 2 years later, and he's running for president again with nothing. There's nothing. He's a free man, and he's running for president 2 years after he tried to overthrow the government with violence after he lost the election. Something's wrong with the United States, and that thing that's wrong with the United States is white supremacy. Like, is that Bolsonaro guy still in the United States? Why hasn't he been kicked out yet and kicked back to Brazil? Like, that guy shouldn't be anywhere in the United States. That guy's a criminal. He tried to overthrow his own democracy. Like, what about our own dude? He tried to overthrow our democracy. See, that, if the Justice Department were really under the control of the people, they would have arrested Donald Trump. And but he, like, if you or I would have tried to overthrow the government, we would have been in jail instantly and rotting away. But because he's a rich white guy powerful guy, it takes a long time. The Proud Boy trial is going on an extra month long. Why is it an extra month long? Because every single piece of evidence is contested and challenged and objected to by like 7 different lawyers for the Proud Boys. So yeah, they drag out the whole thing for as long as possible, and they can do it because they have unlimited money. Someone is backing them and paying their lawyers to take as much time as possible. You and I, we can't do that because we don't have unlimited money to pay lawyers to waste time. But rich people can do it. In order to delay justice, they just delay. They have their lawyers waste as much time as possible as long as they pay the lawyers money. It sucks so bad. That's why our legal system is de facto skewed to the rich, because they have the financial resources to make it work for them. How many people are in prison or in jail right now, not because they did a crime, but because they can't afford bail? They just can't afford bail. Anyways, Donald Trump tried to overthrow the government. Didn't work, but he didn't get put away. Instead, the insurrectionists took a majority in the House of Representatives and are working to dismantle the government from the inside. And assure the next coup succeeds. They granted the insurrectionists in the House of Representatives granted access to the Capitol tapes to one Nazi propagandist for Tucker Carlson, and that's it. In order to create a narrative that discredits, or in order to cast doubt on the fact that the Republicans tried to stage a coup and violently overthrow the government on January 6th. That's the whole point of giving Tucker Carlson exclusive access to the Capitol security tapes, because they want to discredit the whole idea that there was an insurrection. And they want to make sure that the next insurrection works, because they get to review all the security measures and learn how to circumvent those security measures next time. Now that you know about them, it's easier to bypass them. So like, this stuff is pretty fucking obvious and blatant if you sit there and pay attention and look at it all at once in one particular deal. But people don't get it like that. People get it in little bites and chunks over years. So they never really get the big picture and never see like clearly the danger that we're facing. And things are just normalized. It's just normalized. Like, I don't know, like, yeah, people don't know that Ron DeSantis literally banned books and libraries in Florida. Like, there's pictures of empty bookshelves because the government will imprison the teacher if there's a book that the government doesn't approve. And that government is white supremacy. So it's not like they're kicking out like manuals of hate. Like, no, they're kicking out books that decry fascism and decry white supremacy. Instead, they want to promote white supremacy. Ron DeSantis is a white supremacist. So yeah, I guess that's kind of why I do what I do. Like, I tried to like get a list, the definitive list, but there's just way too much stuff. So here, let's look at this one. 2014, Russia annexes Crimea, a peninsula in southern Ukraine. The military occupation, denounced by Western powers, sparks the biggest East-West crisis since the Cold War. Remember, the Ukrainians just kicked out the Russian puppet, and in response to Ukraine kicking out the Russian puppet during a revolution, Russia invaded and took Crimea. A popular uprising in Ukraine prompts the ouster of the Russian-backed president Viktor Yanukovych, what the show I was telling you about. Hunter Biden, son of Joe Biden, joins the board of scandal-plagued Ukrainian energy company Burisma. Remember, he didn't know what was going on. This company had been under investigation for a long time. The dude, Zlochevsky, brought him on board just so he could be the one holding the bag, while Zlochevsky fled with $23 million in embezzled funds. Okay, 2016. Paul Manafort, chairman of the 2016 Trump presidential campaign, resigns less than 4 months before the U.S. election after Ukraine's anti-corruption agency reveals he has been promised millions of dollars for undeclared consulting work for Kremlin-backed Yanukovych. In other words, dude was promised millions of dollars for helping Yanukovych gain power in Ukraine. Then Yanukovych was kicked out by the Ukrainian people. So he helped the Russians take power in Ukraine, and now he's helping the Russians take power in USA through Trump. Manafort is later indicted for failing to register as a foreign agent and numerous financial offenses and jailed. Trump has since pushed an unsubstantiated theory that the campaign of his 2016 political opponent, Hillary Clinton, played a role in the Ukraine Manafort revelations. But this doesn't matter anyways, because Donald Trump pardoned Manafort for this. All right, 2019. Rudy Giuliani, Trump's personal lawyer and former New York mayor, voices unsubstantiated allegations on Fox News that Joe Biden's pressed for the dismissal of Viktor Shokin in order to block a corruption investigation into Burisma. It was exactly the opposite. Shokin was blocking the investigation into Burisma, and Joe Biden wanted that prosecution to happen, so they wanted to get rid of this corrupt prosecutor. Corrupt prosecutor is Viktor Shokin. All right, down here. Oh shit. 22nd of April. Volodymyr Zelensky, an actor and comedian with no political experience except for playing the president in a TV series, is elected Ukraine's leader. Trump congratulates him in a phone call. Yeah, and later extorts him. Remember, Trump was not buddy-buddy with this guy. Trump wanted to destroy him. Where was that picture at? Oh, yeah, right here. This guy needed security weapons and help from the Americans against the coming Russian attack. And Trump was like, nope, you're not getting it unless you help me. So and he's like super bummed. Sally Yates. All right. Anyways, so now what happened? So Joe Biden won the presidency. Donald Trump tried to stage a coup to overthrow him to maintain power. Since that coup failed, Russia invaded Ukraine to overthrow Ukraine, and it failed. But for some reason, Russia has a lot of troops stationed all over the place. Did you know? So this is Ukraine. That this little tiny sliver of land between Moldova, this country, and Ukraine, that little sliver of land right there, that's called Transnistria. Transnistria is a little sliver of land. That was occupied by the Russians are threatening to invade Moldova from that little sliver there. That little sliver there is Russian controlled because the Russians have an army there that just never ever left. They put an army there and just never left. For like a long time, for years and years and years, they just put an army there and never left. Who's gonna make him leave? can see that Ron DeSantis is on Team Russia, dude. DeSantis downplays the threat Russia poses to other countries. Like, he's apologizing for Russia the same way that Donald Trump apologized for Russia too. Like, have you seen that clip where Donald Trump literally like bows down to Russia? Not literally, but he like, yeah, it's bad. All right, what's this one? Brexit. So Brexit before, Boris promises new golden age of, because you know, against common sense, England decided to break off to leave the EU and go its own way, and it lost all its good trade deals and all its good position, and it lost everything. So after, like, what is this? This is 2019 and this is 2023. Rationing of fruits and vegetables to last weeks. So they went from promising a golden age after Brexit to to rationing fruits and vegetables because their economy is so bad after Brexit. Brexit was a bad idea. So there's this talk that the Republicans are doing to do another civil war. They're dumb. They're stupid. Saying it because there's no red and blue states. It's purple states. Sarah Kendzior says this: the two Americas, I have been informed, are red and blue, Republican and Democrat, with no room for gradation. No room for mostly liberal cities and mostly conservative rural states. No room for the gerrymandering and vote suppression that make a state legislature neither resemble nor respect the people it governs. No room for political opinions that span a spectrum instead of checking a box. No room for the distinctive hardships and joys residents of a state share, regardless of their differences. No room for the truth, which is that America is purple, purple like a bruise. So, yesterday I was talking about how the Russians are using a form of warfare called information warfare. They developed this back in the 70s or 80s, but the problem was that information warfare back at that time, it had to use the media available, which was newspapers, magazines, and television. All of those were dominated by corporate media, by corporate interests, so that Russians really had no room to get in there and put their own content out there, because there's no room. Like, it's not like now, 2023, where everyone has a cell phone. Everyone's got a cell phone and an internet connection. Anyone can record any video at any time and upload it, and millions and millions of people can see it. They could broadcast anything at any time from anywhere. Literally anyone. Pocket, in the palm of your hand. In the palm of your hand is a studio recorder now. In the palm of your hand, a studio recorder, a recording studio in the palm of your hand. Now in 2023, but in 1980. That didn't happen. You didn't have a a recording studio in the palm of your hand. You literally had gigantic ass buildings for recording TV and video, and huge staff to literally cut the tape, literally go through film, cut it, and splice it together with other film. Physically splicing and cutting film together to edit it. Like, it was incredible. So Russians are not gonna fucking waltz into Hollywood and like set up their own movie studio. It's not happening. It's not happening. There's no way they're doing it. They tried. They had little AM stations and whatnot, but it didn't really go far. And you think, dude, you're like, ha, Robert, you're ha, Pogo Kirill, you're crazy. You're crazy. There's no way that the Russians had that. I shit you not, dude. Don't listen to me. Listen to Yuri Bezmenov, who's a KGB guy who defected from the Soviet Union to the Americas in the 1980s, and now I found out he's in a Call of Duty thing. He's in Call of Duty. So check this out.
Well, you spoke several times before about ideological subversion. That is a phrase that I'm afraid some Americans don't fully understand.
There's nothing to do with espionage. Only about 15% of time, money, and manpower is spent on espionage as such. The other 85% is a slow process, which we call either ideological subversion or active measures, активные мероприятия in the language.
So, what he was telling you about is a slow process called active measures. Active measures.
Of the KGB, or psychological warfare. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions.
Think about what kind of world we live in now. We live in a world of disinformation, where the president is where Donald Trump, president of the United States, was telling people to take horse dewormer and inject bleach. We have people running around saying both sides are the same. You can't tell the difference. Like, there's no such thing as truth. In other words, that thing that he's talking about has already happened in the United States. Talk to someone who believes in QAnon. Those QAnon people are utterly fucking crazy because they've lost the ability to discern truth. They no longer believe in truth. Even if you give them accurate, good information, they won't believe it. They won't believe it.
In the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country.
Say it again.
The abundance of information. To such an extent, of every of the KGB or psychological warfare. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. You cannot change their mind, even if...
So look here in the United States how that's happened. When COVID hit, the disinformation the disinformation out there made people afraid of the vaccine, afraid of the treatments, and afraid of them, and like turned mask wearing into like a political thing, and had people taking horse dewormer and then dying en masse. Furthermore, now that the Russians attacked our electoral system, our political system, a lot of Americans are unable to defend their country. They're unable to defend the United States because they're too confused. They don't know what's going on. They can't. They come to a point where the only thing they think is true is what they feel is true. Not what is true, but what they feel is true. And what they feel is true can be changed depending on what authority or power tells them.
If you expose them to authentic information, even if you prove that white is white and black is black, you still cannot change the basic perception and the logic of behavior.
So remember, you can show like election deniers all the evidence you want. It will never change their mind. You can show COVID deniers all the morgues and dead people. It won't change their mind. You can show the people, the Republicans, how many ways Donald Trump has colluded and conspired with the Russians, and it will never change their mind. They will never change their mind because their basis of reality is no longer on their senses, but on ideology, what the power tells them.
In other words, these people, the process of demoralization is complete and irreversible.
Demoralization. It's the process of demoralization to make it so that Americans can no longer discern and make distinctions. They want people to think that truth is unknowable, that you cannot know truth. There is no truth. So if there's no truth, then both sides are the same. Anything is possible. In fact, the only thing that, then truth can be whatever feels good, or whatever the guy with the gun says it is, because he has the gun.
To get rid society of these people, you need another 20 or 15 years to educate a new generation of patriotically minded and common sense people who would be acting in favor and in the interests of the United States society. The next stage is destabilization. This time, subverter does not care about your ideas and the patterns of your consumption. Whether you eat junk food and get fat and flabby, it doesn't matter anymore. This time, and it takes only from 2 to 5 years to destabilize a nation. What matters is essentials: economy, foreign relations, defense systems. The next stage, of course, is crisis.
I mean, yeah, we saw how Donald Trump tried to turn the military against the people. He wanted to declare martial law, and we're lucky he didn't do it, because it would have sucked. He wrecked our economy. He gave the biggest tax cut to billionaires. And that's why the debt ceiling has come up already, because of the Republican tax cuts of 2018. And he wrecked all our alliances with all our allies. And he was buddy-buddy with all the Republicans, or all the enemies of the United States, all the dictatorships. So Donald Trump was literally trying to demoralize Americans. And it worked for a large part of them.
It may take only up to 6 weeks to bring a country to the verge of crisis. Power, structure, and economy. You can see it in Central America now. And after crisis, it may take only up to 6 weeks to bring a country to the verge of crisis. You can see it in Central America now. And after crisis, with a violent change of power, structure, and economy, you have so-called the period of normalization.
We didn't get there, right? The violent change that tried to happen on January 6, 2021, that one didn't happen. It didn't happen. So we're in the aftermath, and they're trying to normalize what happened. That's the whole point of what releasing the tapes is to Tucker Carlson. They're trying to normalize what happened in January 6th, so they can do it again. They can do another violent overthrow of government if they can't win through it legally. So that idea, he was talking in the 1980s, but why didn't it take off in the 1980s? Because, no one knew about this guy, right? He was in the 1980s talking about this, but only the fringe right-wing people know about him. Why is that? Because in the 80s, information was a lot more controlled, a lot more gatekept. With the advent of the internet, that literally transformed everything. The internet is the same thing as the Gutenberg press, in terms of the flow of information. Listen to David Bowie.
What is it specifically about the internet? I mean, anybody can say anything. And it all adds up to what? I mean, it seems to me there's nothing cohesive about it in the way that there was something cohesive about the youth revolution in music.
Oh, but absolutely. And because I think that we, at the time, up until at least the mid-70s, really felt that we were still living under in the guise of a single and absolute created society where there were known truths and known lies, and there was no kind of duplicity or pluralism about the things that we believed in. That started to break down rapidly in the 70s, and the idea of a duality in the way that we live. There are always 2, 3, 4, 5 sides to every question. That this singularity disappeared, and that, I believe, has produced such a medium as the internet, which absolutely establishes and shows us that we are living in total fragmentation. I don't think we've even seen the tip of the iceberg. I think the potential of what the internet is going to do to society, both good and bad, is unimaginable. I think we're actually on the cusp of something exhilarating and terrifying.
It's just a tool, though, isn't it?
No, it's not. No, it's an alien life form.
What do you think? I mean, when you think then about the
Is there
future
life on Mars? Yes, it's just landed here.
But it's simply a different delivery system there. You're arguing about something more profound.
Oh yeah, I'm talking about the actual context, and the state of content is going to be so different to anything that we can really envisage at the moment, where the interplay between the user and the provider will be so in simpatico. It's going to crush our ideas of what mediums are all about.
Yeah, he was in the 90s. That's in the 90s. The internet has allowed people to have access to all sorts of information, but that also gave the Russians an opening to spread disinformation. And I think that's the side of it that David Bowie didn't see. He didn't anticipate there would be bad actors intentionally spreading bad information throughout the internet, throughout consciousness. Because, yeah, internet is basically consciousness. How can I be aware of what's happening in Ukraine? Like, almost in real time, basically in real time. If someone says, holy shit, I just saw a missile strike, and then they film it and they upload it to Twitter, I will see it almost in real time, like 5 minutes later, maybe? Like super quick. Back in the 80s, if something happened over in Ukraine, I wouldn't know about it, like maybe in the newspaper, like a week later, maybe if it even showed up in the newspaper. If I was even reading the newspaper back then, like if it was even amongst all the other things that I'm reading in the newspaper, like how much can you fit in a newspaper? Like it's not at all like it is now. It's insane what it is now. The bandwidth that it's taking. What do we got here? What's this? 1 year later, Russia has launched 9.6 thousand strikes in Ukraine. 9,600 strikes. So all these missile strikes tried to kill people. All these drone strikes are all trying to kill people. So Russia's invading, for sure. Oh yeah. So I talked about this and then I deleted it. I should talk about it more. What time is it? How long have I been going? An hour? I can do it. Alright. So one of the ways... Okay, I think in the 90s, there was a scientist by the name of Susan Blackmore who came up with the idea that we could combine evolution, the theory of evolution, with information, with the theory of information, to create meme theory. Meme theory, a meme being like the smallest component of information that wants to be replicated. Because if you think of what genes are just patterns of protein that want to be reproduced. That's it. They just want to make more of themselves. That's literally what it's about. A gene is about. It's a photoprotein that wants to make more of itself. So a meme is nothing more than an idea that wants to make more of itself. Burn, burn, burn. Why don't you put some water on? Oh, that's right, water will kill you. So you're on fire and you can't put water on you. Bummer. Alright, I'll take your balls. Okay, Susan Blackmore had this idea that you can combine information theory and evolution to explain how culture propagates and spreads. How some ideas are more cohesive with other ideas, and they tend to be expressed in society. Like a meme could be something as simple as like a handshake, like hey, boom, boom. That's a meme. That's just something you wanted that reproduces and makes more of itself. It's like that's all it is. It's just something that makes more of it, that reproduces itself, makes more of itself. Just like a gene. So I was taught. So like you notice how I'm talking a lot about quantum mechanics, quantum theory, even though I'm not a quantum scientist. Like I studied sociology, but just like how you can combine information theory and genetics to explain culture and meme theory, you can also, like, I want to explore if you can combine quantum theory with sociology. Like I learned about like what is a proton? A proton weighs more than its constituent parts. A proton is made up of some quarks, and quarks are just waves of energy confined to an arbitrary system, so that they can't like move away from each other too far. And if they do, then it breaks. So in that confined, when quarks are confined in a proton, what they do is their relationship creates a vacuum in the gluon flux, because you know all these quarks are appearing and disappearing in the gluon field, which is constantly at flux. It's always changing. Well, when you have these quarks hanging out with each other, they create their relationship creates a vacuum in the gluon flux where it's stable, and inside that stability you have like it takes energy. So you have you basically localize energy. It's basically a packet of localized energy, localized stable energy, which is like hard to do when the whole place is like a quantum like gluon flux. So the gluon flux is always trying to like break it down and make it flux again. So, but the relationship that relationship requires energy to maintain. So where does all the weight come from on a proton? It's the energy that's used to maintain the relationship between the quarks. That's where all the weight comes from. It's not from the quarks themselves, but it's from the motion of the quarks. The energy, the motion is transformed into mass. So I think about that. I'm like, whoa, what about like friendships, hanging out with people? Isn't that kind of what you do when there's two or more people? You have like, yeah. Well, I guess it would be three or more. You create a relationship, and in that relationship, you can do a lot of things that you cannot do outside that relationship. So I don't know, right? I'm a solo guy, right? I'm a solo. I've like been solo my whole life. So I don't really I don't really know. I mean, I do know. I can see what can be done in couples, which is like really powerful. It can be really good. Any couples, not just heterosexual couples, but any couples. When it's bound by love. and any like groups of friends, just groups. I don't know. They create a kind of energy, I guess. Just like the quarks require energy to maintain their proton, their deal. Yeah, the moving away thing, I think, is a big deal. It really affects my relationships with people. It's hard to maintain relationships when you move away. So yeah, what does this future hold in store? Well, I don't know. I'm hoping that Donald Trump gets indicted before the next election. But I was hoping he'd be indicted before the last election too, and it didn't happen. The Proud Boy trial is going over because they're taking so fucking long, because the lawyers know what they're doing. They're like purposely delaying it. Because the longer the Proud Boy trial takes, the longer it takes to indict Donald Trump. Donald Trump might be indicted by Georgia for when he tried to overthrow the election in Georgia. So, like, we may not even get to the January 6th thing before he's in prison for something else. I don't know. I don't care. As long as Donald Trump is in prison, he's a traitor and an existential threat to the United States. We need to get rid of Donald Trump, and we need to like work on our information sphere, because too many people don't know what's going on, and then it causes them to make bad decisions. Okay. Anyways. Alright, well, I think that'll do it for me. Remember, keep your eyes on the prize. Like, we're in this for a multiracial democracy where everyone is taken care of, not just the few, not just the wealthy. Where we're all living together in harmony. That's the best way to get our energy up super high and to tackle the problems that face us today. So yeah, let's get to it. Okay, America, Pogo Kiddo out. Peace. Stop.